Crafting with Angelina. It's nice to be back. Today I'm going to show you how I created a card. It's just a note for you. And I used a couple of different Cricut cartridges, so I'm going to show you how I laid out my images in the Cricut Craft Room and then put the paper down onto the mat for cutting, and then I'll show you how I assembled the card. So let's head over to my craft table. See you in a bit.
So I want to show you how I've cut out the different elements for the card. And basically what I do is I go to the Cricut Craft Room and I figure out what images I need. I usually do a search, so I'll do the image search, go through here, I type in what it is that I want, I find it, and then I put it onto the mat. Then I align them. Once I figure out where I'm going to put them on the actual mat, I take my blocks of paper and lay them out. And that way I can cut it all at one time. I run this through the Cricut expression and then it cuts all of those shapes out for me at one time. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble the card for you next. So to put these together, I'm going to go ahead and use my Tombow Mono Multi-Purpose Glue. This is my absolute favorite adhesive. I like that it always gives me a little time to work with what I'm trying to put together, and it's a lot more forgiving than any of the like tape runners. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that in there together. Kind of line it up best I can, and the glue will dry clear, so I'm not worried about that. And there we go. So I'll do the other two real quickly for you. So there's our three little flowers. I'm going to let them dry, and once they dry I'm going to do just a little bit of curling to give them a little more dimension, and then we'll go into the next step. Okay, I have everything assembled here. I'm starting off with a piece of daisy white paper, and this is 11 by 4 1/4. It's scored at 5 1/2, and this is going to create my card base. I'm going to put that to the side because what I usually do is put my card together, what I call the face of the card, and then attach it to the card base once I'm done. This right here is a piece of ruby cardstock, and this is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. This is going to be what I call the face of the card. And I'm going to do the stamping first and the gluing so that they have time to dry before we continue to move on. What I'm going to do is just take a little glue and put it around the edges. Not too much because I don't want it to squish out. Line the second piece up and attach it. Get it nice and even. This is just going to add a little thickness to this particular element of the card. And then we'll take the pretty paper and attach that. Oops, I am all thumbs today. Okay. So there we go. Now, because some of this gray really shows through, once this dries, I'm going to trim it off a little bit with my scissors, and then I'm going to just take a little bit of the ruby ink and sponge the edges. So we'll do that. In the meantime, I'll set that to the side. So I'm going to get my ruby ink out and get that ready, along with my little sponge. What I do basically is take these sponges, cut them in 8 pieces, cut out a little label and attach it with the name, and I sponge the color on the back. That way I'm not using over and over and contaminating any of the inks. So next, let's see. Oh, we're going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment. What I like to do is just add a little temporary tape to the back. Oh, there we go. And then I'm going to stick it down here so that it doesn't move when I'm trying to stamp it. And I've already set up my stamp, and the stamp I'm using today comes from the Just For You, and I'm going to use this A Note For You. Okay, and that's from Close to My Heart. I'm using the Archival Black ink for this. There we go. I'm going to put it way over to the side. There we go. I'm going to give that just a little bit to dry. Put that off to the side as well. Next, I'll go ahead, I think I'm going to do a little extra sponging on this. I just feel like it's going to be something that's going to be needed on this particular card. So I am going to take a little bit of blush and sponge around this one. So I'm just going to ink up the edges a little bit on this one, and we'll do that with everything. Okay, for these pieces, I'm going to use the ruby. So put this back away. I always get dirty when I do this. I just end up with ink everywhere. Not sure exactly why I have to be such a messy crafter. I guess that's just part of the fun, right? So we were going to trim this. Just where the gray was popping out a little more than I really want it to. I really want everything to align nicely. There we go, that looks nice. And then we'll just do the edges of this. This is also going to make it pop. You'll see when we put it to the card, since we are going to butt it up against a ribbon that has the same print, we want it to really stand out. So that's going to help that stand out. And these are probably dry enough to go ahead and add just a little ink around the edges. Oh, go ahead and do it to the panel too. What the heck? You can do a lot or a little, just whatever your preference is. I think I'm feeling generous today. Okay, there we go. That's it with the ruby. I'm gonna wipe this off. I like to keep a nice damp rag around to clean my work surface. Try to keep my cards clean, my projects clean. So there we go. I hate it when I'm working on a card and I get ink on any areas where it should not be. That is no fun, no bueno. I'm gonna go ahead and use some, let's see, we'll use some slate on this. Looks like it's time to cut another piece off. There we go. Load this up with some ink. Okay, I'm going to step away and wash my hands and reorganize my work surface, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So now we'll start assembling the card. Again, I'm going to take the card base and I'm going to use that same temporary adhesive or removable adhesive just to secure my card down so that it's not moving around when I'm trying to work on it, and that way I can keep things lined up. That's just one of the ways I like to do it. And again, I'm just going to use the Tombow multi-adhesive to attach everything. I find, and I'm not sure if it's because where we live, because it's really not that humid here. Oh, I want the pattern to go this way. That sometimes when I use the running tapes or other adhesives, my cards fall apart, and I don't know if it's because of the humidity or what the case is, but I'll go back and look at some of my cards, and maybe they're a year old and they're kind of falling apart. So I found that with this particular adhesive, that no longer happens. So the next piece I'm going to put together is our little tag. And I am going to first glue this panel to the mat. And then I am going to pop everything up on 3D foam tape. Another thing I like, I think I mentioned this earlier, is that it's very forgiving. So if I don't quite have it in the right place, I have a little time to move things around and get them just in the right place. So I'm really happy about that. Okay, so I'm going to pop that up on just a little of this 3D tape. I'm a little bit stingy with this. So I'm just going to cut some little pieces out and pop it up that way. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to put this on at an angle. There we go. Let's see, next we're going to do the heart. And I'm also going to pop that up on a little bit with a little bit of foam tape. Now see, when I talked about sponging the edges, this is where it's really going to make a difference, because I don't want it to blend in too much. I want it to stand out. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you. Want it to stand out a little bit. There we go. So now we're going to go ahead and put this little guy on. And I've got to kind of figure out how I want him, because I'm going to be putting the flowers on top. I think I'll attach him with just a little bit of glue here and just some foam tape at the end. There we go. Now I had talked about how I wanted to curl these. So what I'm going to do is just take a bone folder. I'm just going to curl these a little bit like that. And the big one I'm going to want to be popped up. And the little ones are just going to sit a little more flat. So I am going to attach this little guy first, because I want the right placement for him. I like to have a lead petal up on top pointing versus this way. I feel like that pulls the eye down. So when I put my cards together, I like to make sure I have them just like that. Okay. There we go. So just a little dimension on those. Again, the glue will dry clear once it dries. And now we'll use our little sparkles just in the center of the flowers. Little bit of bling never hurts. And a lot of bit of bling is even better. There we go. Okay, so next we're going to address that. And let me clean this up and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went to my stash of ribbon and I found this little scrap. So this is going to work perfectly. I'm going to tie it into a little bow. And then just attach it to the card. And it's important to take your time when you're doing your bows. You want them to look nice. You don't want them to be too awfully bulky. I think that right there is going to work nicely. I'm going to leave the tail a little long. Get that nice and tight. Okay. And for that, I'm going to use a glue dot. Since the glue dot's a little bit bigger than my knot, I'm going to just curl it up a little bit like that so we don't have it going anywhere. Put that right in there. And trim it just a little bit. I don't want it going that far. There we go. Get them nice and even. Oh, I like that. Okay, so now I am, since I didn't mess anything up, I'm ready to go ahead and attach this to my card base. And I'm going to add my adhesive again, the mono. And basically I just like to make sure there's some, hang on the corners. I really want my corners to stick. And there we go. And there's our card. I'll work on the inside next. Okay, so I had these scraps left over from our project, and what I'm going to do is just utilize the scraps and add them in. I want to try to use the colors that I'm playing with for this card. I'm just going to layer these on the inside. I want to attach this here. There we go. Now we could stamp a sentiment on the inside of our card or just leave it like that and call it a day. I am going to call that a day. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. Visit my blog at papercraftingwithangelina.blogspot.com. If you'd like to purchase any of the products that you've seen here today, you can go to my Close to My Heart website, and that is at papercraftingwithangelina.com. In the meantime, have a fantastic day and happy paper crafting. Bye-bye. Okay, so while I was cleaning up my mess, I discovered the cutest little butterfly that I must have cut from a previous project. It's the same paper here, so I thought what better than to attach it here to my card. So I thought I would just share that with you. Got to figure out where I want to put him. And I'm thinking that looks cute right there. So I'm just going to use my glue pen and put some glue on here. Attach it, attach this little guy right here. Hey, it's so hard to decide. Do any of you have that problem? I'm sure I'm not the only one. So we're gonna let that dry. And now I'm calling it a day. Thanks, bye-bye.